Hello and welcome to A1R Psychic Radio. We're going to have another lovely show where we're going to have two callers call in, and I'm going to give them a reading each. But before we go to that, to the callers, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of my experiences that I've had in my travels around the world. And I have spent a lot of time in India, and months and months and months I've spent in India. And my first trip sort of came about where I joined some people that had set up a charity, and they were going out to India to they were raising money in the UK, and they were going out to India to basically help provide and build schools and pay salaries for teachers and bring equipment and beds and all sorts of things that the school would need, and in through because I was so lucky to have experienced that, and I did it several years running. We used to come back to the UK, and I used to help with some of the fundraising, and in that process I met lots of people from all walks of life in India, and so what was really fascinating about this experience for me is I met some very wealthy Indian people that had extreme wealth, and then I met some extreme people with extreme poverty. And one of the things that struck me quite a lot is that if two things actually that really strikes me about India is one, the Hindu religion has a caste system, and the bottom of the caste system is a bit like a class system, to sort of simplify it. But at the bottom of the caste system is a group of people called the untouchables, and literally they are considered untouchable because they are the lowest of the low in the class system, or caste system, should I say. And that's something that sort of really sort of thought, for me, it sort of it slightly sort of upsets me that any human being could be untouchable, or any human being could be not considered good enough to communicate with or have any sort of form of dialogue or relationship or whatever with. It just seems sort of so bizarre to me. And the other thing is, now I know that a lot of the countries around the world will have private health insurance, and you take out your insurance and you have cover, and if you're ill you claim on your insurance. But in India, insurance isn't really something that the Indians do, mainly because they don't have the money to pay for it. So if you can afford health care, you're okay. You can get your health care. But if you can't, you literally won't be seen. There isn't an option available for you, even though the healthcare system is quite cheap over there. It's not sort of extortionate in the prices, but it's still people aren't able to be seen. And I was giving it some thought just recently about the people who are contracting COVID-19. And I know that sort of in the Western world we're having ventilators, and that for some people are life-saving and bring help people recover from this terrible disease. But for those people, they wouldn't have that. And I was thinking about that today, and I thought I'll just sort of share that with you. Because it was a thought that I was having today, and I wonder what you think about that. And I'm not one to be sort of political, and I don't mean to be political. It's more about another human being's plight. at a time when we need to all come together and help each other, and everybody should have at least some sort of level of healthcare. Anyway, I believe we have Shayna in Pennsylvania, waiting is called in. Are you there, Shayna?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the show. And how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Good, good. I am a medium, and that what that means is I can do one of two things. I can either connect to a loved one that you'd like me to connect to, or I can connect to one of my guides and give you some guidance over any area of your life that you'd like me to focus on. So, is there a particular way that you would like me to work, and where would you like me to focus?
On my marriage, I wanted to know, am I going to get back with my husband permanently?
Right, okay. I can sense my guide standing by the side of me. So I'm just going to go straight to him and see what he has to say. Um, he's saying to me that I'm just getting a few words. Hold on a moment. He's saying to me that your life in your marriage, um, he's talking about there's been some quite few sort of rocky moments. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And he's making me feel as though it's like it hasn't been the way you would have liked it um, for some time. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
And he's also saying to me that uh, he's making me feel that your husband hasn't always treated you in the way that you would like, or hasn't treated you with respect, and hasn't treated you well. Does that make sense to you? I do feel that aspects of it he has been, good, but there are aspects that aren't so good. Would that make sense to you?
Yes.
And And what he's saying is that if your husband was to come back and be with you in this in your marriage, um, in a way, you would need him to change some of his ways and look at your marriage differently. Because and you would have a strong need for that, because if he wasn't prepared to make any sort of shift in the way that he is, you would find it difficult to move forward with him.
Mhm.
Would that make sense to you?
Yes.
Um, he's he's also saying to me that um, he's making me feel as though you are the one that's being more hurt out of all of this, um, and there's a sort of a sense of sort of selfishness with your husband. Which would you understand that?
Yes.
And and I and he's also saying to me that he it's almost as though he's giving a cursory glance over his shoulder, and he's not really it's like he's abandoning the relationship, and he hasn't really given the relationship the proper care for the relationship to ever sort of flourish. He's saying that he has always there's always been a tendency to be selfish in the relationship, and always been a tendency to uh, I feel like there's a sort of a misbehaved sort of element to him. And I don't really want to go too much into that. But does all of that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
And what he's saying, okay, I'm hearing the word regret. And he's my guide Arthur is saying to me that you will get to hear that there is regret from him as to what he's done, and because he hasn't behaved right. I get that very strongly from my guide. He's not going into the details, and I don't really feel like I need to go into the details with you. I could explore it, but we're on live radio, and I don't want to go into sort of that aspect of it. But what I do feel is that he will reach a point where he's realised that he's made the most massive mistake that he possibly could have done. It's like he's been an utter fool, and I feel that he is going to have some massive regrets and really seriously look to how he can come back. The only problem that I'm getting with him is that he's quite a proud person, and I get the feeling with him that he would struggle to sort of admit his wrongs, or admit, I feel that with him, that there's this sort of a slightly sort of proud and a slightly I think I mean I want to use the word arrogant, but I'm nervously using it because I don't want to offend either. But I just get that feeling with him that he is he's not very good at admitting when he's wrong, and I feel that, or certainly he won't be in this case. But I do feel that I'm being told by Arthur that you will know when the time comes when he is having regrets, and so it's almost so. In other words, the choice is going to end up being yours, and in that choice, you can decide as to whether you play the game to pull him back. But he's going to need some pulling back, as opposed to, walking through the door and, I'm sorry, I've done everything wrong. Will you forgive me? And can I come back? I just don't feel like it's going to be like that. Does that make sense about his character and the way things are?
Yes, it does. You're like spot on. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel very, very confident that you will know the timing of when he has those regrets. And so you literally will have it'll be your choice as to whether you pick up the baton and say, okay, let's work with this, or open the door for him and help him to sort of move through the door. And that's going to be your choice. And and what I'm being told by Arthur is that this whole thing has not been set in stone. When that time comes and you choose to sort of nurture him back into the relationship, he it's almost like, when you get to that point, you may not want to make that decision. It's almost like your wounds are gradually being sort of healed, and you are starting to think in your own mind, where you're thinking, hold on a moment, when he was living here, he was a nightmare, and he did this and he did that, and I don't know if I want to be putting up with that again. And I get the feeling that there are those thoughts in your head, and but I know from my own experience, because I've gone through exactly the same as what you've gone through. I know from my own experience that Um, it took me a long time to being used to being on my own. And so because I was so used to being with somebody, I wanted that person back. Um, and I think that there is a little bit of that with you as well. Would that all make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the upshot of it is, it's the choice is yours. You have the choice as to whether you go down a direction with repairing the relationship and continuing on in the relationship, or you move on in a different way. And until you make that decision, you know, the way the spirit world works and the way that God works is that a new sort of life is not going to be prepared for you until they know what you're doing.
Hmm.
But I do feel that you will have some reservations when the time comes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in. I hope that helps. And if you want to find me, I'm on Facebook, and my name's Gail Moffat. So thank you.
What is your name again?
Gail Moffat.
Gail Moffat.
Moffat.
Okay.
And Moffat is spelt the same way as the town in Scotland.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for calling, Shayna.
Hmm.
Right. So we have Trish in County Kerry, Ireland. Hello, Trish.
Hi.
Aren't you
Hello.
lucky to be living in County Kerry?
Very
What,
lucky.
what you are. I remember it must be back in the 90s. I remember doing the is it the Ring of Kerry? The Ring of Kerry and all around that area. Does that make sense?
That's Yeah, I know what you're on about. I know what you're on about.
Okay, anyway, you didn't call for to help me with my geography. Uh, so
No.
and trust me, I do need some help. Anyway, I am a medium, and what that means is I'm able to um, connect to loved ones in the spirit world that have passed over, or I can give you some guidance from my guide, who is able to help you in any way that you like. Um, Due to the short nature of these readings, if you could tell me where exactly you want me to focus, that would be great.
uh, Basically, like around my love life, basically.
Okay,
If
and
you could.
is this a relationship that you're in, that you're referring
Uh,
to?
no, I got into like a bad breakup like a month ago, and like I'm kind of like seeing like whether or not like the person or whatever someone else could come into their life, and how much better it would be compared to like the last time. If you kind of get
Right.
what I'm
So
saying.
is there something better on the horizon? Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
And do you have any reservations about the previous relationship? Do you want me to look at that, or shall
Yeah,
I leave
because
that?
like do kind of look into that as well, because like I'm kind of thinking that like, is he gonna come back, or is it like, is my future just like not like gonna have him
Okay.
involved at all?
Okay. Right. I've got it. Right. Okay. So I'm going to go to my guide, Arthur, who is standing by the side of me, and I'm going to ask him about what's going on. And he's telling me, oh, he's going straight in. He's telling me that your ex, I'm going to call him your ex for want of a word. I'm not. That's not suggesting anything, but I, I'm going to. He's telling me that he was somebody that was quite good fun. I feel like there's a lot of fun, and I feel that you had a lot of laughter in your relationship. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And because I feel like he's a bit of a sort of a party person, and I feel like, um, would he have liked Irish music?
He never, like, he didn't, like, he wasn't Irish, but he never, like, had any Irish music. Like, he never heard it before in his life, like.
Okay, so that must be you that I'm picking up then, or somebody in the future. But
Yeah.
because I'm. Do you like Irish music?
I do, yeah, because, like, my dad played it around the house, so, like, I'd listen to it, like, every now and again whenever he has it on.
Right. Okay. Because I'm hearing Irish music in my clairaudience, um, and I'm being told that this the person that you were seeing, I feel that now this is interesting. There was a big reason why you had to have this man in your life, an absolute big reason, and I feel that you have absolutely gone from A to B in your growth and in your maturity. I'm not saying that you weren't mature at the beginning of the relationship, but it's about spiritual growth is what I meant. And
Yeah, I
so
get you.
uh, and it's like you've gone from A to B in that relationship and really grown on some level, that in other words, you're not the same person coming out of that relationship as the one that was going into that relationship. And
Hmm.
does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And I get the feeling that was the purpose of this relationship. In other words, if you like, I believe, I know that people come into our lives for a reason, and it can be that reason lasts a lifetime or 5 minutes, but nevertheless, they come into our lives for a reason. And I feel that he came into your life for a reason because he brought you to the next stage of your life. And the reason why he had to be like, he is the precursor to the long to your lifelong partner, because I feel that you won't be going back to him, and let's face it, we all have our free will, so you can choose to go back to him, but I don't feel that that's spirit's wish, because I feel that you've got something far better waiting round the corner. And the reason being is that I get the feeling that what's really interesting is I get the feeling with the new relationship that's round the corner is that you this relationship wouldn't be like almost like you wouldn't hit it off if you hadn't have had the relationship that you've just come out of. In other words, you've grown to a point which makes you available for the next relationship. Does all that make sense to you? Have I
Yeah, it
explained
does.
myself properly? Um,
It does
and
make sense.
so, and that's what my guide is saying to me. I almost feel like the person you're going to meet probably wouldn't look at you and see you as a possible relationship if he was looking at you prior to the relationship that you've just come out of.
Hmm.
And I feel that that this I just get this feeling very very strongly that the person and I feel like it's almost round the corner, that you're going to meet somebody, and I don't know how you're going to meet him, but I just get this feeling that you're going to meet somebody that is literally round the corner and is going to be your lifelong partner. And I feel marriage, and I feel just like lifelong partner. This is it. This is the relationship. You know how we always say, what was the relationship in our life? That will be it. How does that sound?
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, well, I never know what to expect when I'm connecting, and I just follow the words to what they give to me. But we're slightly we're coming to the end of the show, and but what I would like to say is that if you want to speak to me, find me on Facebook. My name is Gail Moffat, and so if there's anything that you want to ask me after the show, that's fine. And but I just as I'm finishing off, I just want to say that I really don't think you've got anything to worry about, because I really don't think this new relationship is almost like you're almost there. It's almost going to happen. You're going to have that relationship, and it's very, very soon.